Hello everyone, and welcome to another mock video. Thank you so much for joining me. I hope you like army building, because that is the plan today. A few videos ago we introduced the Yeti, the first mech that I showed off from my Future Mechanics Corporation, who are one of the big bad guys in my LEGO world. For those of you who don't know, they're basically a worldwide weapons manufacturing organization. They sell weapons and mech suits and all sorts of nasty stuff to all sorts of nasty people all over the world, and they've gotten very rich doing it, and they don't like competition. So they also keep some of their mechs and weapons to themselves for their own paramilitary. And these are meant to be the basic ground troops of that military. These are the Marauders. Like I said, they're kind of army builders. There's meant to be quite a few of these guys, probably in the hundreds of thousands, if not millions. I went ahead and just built two, because that's how many parts I had. But yeah, we're going to take a closer look at them today. We're going to go over their features, and we'll also look at some of the weapons that I built for them and how those work. So taking a look at one stock standard basic Marauder without any add-ons or enhancements, the main idea when I built these guys was I wanted them to be able to use as many weapons as possible without hindering each other, basically. I wanted them to be able to put out as much fire as possible at once. They're not really built for melee, they're kind of built to just be a overwhelming wall of firepower. Get a bunch of these together and they'll just level a block. Like, one of these alone is meant to be a pretty significant threat just based on firepower alone. If you're getting close, you'll probably beat them in melee, but they put out so much lead that good luck getting in close. You'll notice up top here they have a little machine gun mounted on the right shoulder, and that does have a pretty decent range of fire just because of where it's placed. Can cover quite a bit of the mech. Lower down on the shoulders, you'll notice each shoulder is made up of a missile pod, and those basically make up the basic weapons. So they're able to move on ball joints and, you know, spread out, focus. And they don't have to move that much either. Like, the mech can operate in fairly confined spaces and still use its weapons. It's very versatile in that way. It doesn't really need to move a whole lot to aim its guns, and it can fire, as I said earlier, everything you see here all at once. Now on the back of the mech, you'll notice this very large backpack. It's got a nice tall antenna for maintaining communication with wherever Central Command happens to be, but the main function of this backpack is to carry extra ammo for the weapons as well as survival gear for the pilot. These are also meant to be able to be out in the field for quite a while at a time and be able to operate pretty independently if need be. So these mechs actually do have the onboard AI that a lot of my mechs do. So this would include maybe a collapsible shelter, some food rations, maybe some kind of like heater or water purifier, anything the pilot might need on long recon missions. Speaking of things the pilot might need, there are small armaments on each arm of the Marauder, which are basically meant to be just small extra tools that the pilot can use. You see here there's a double-barreled rifle of some kind. I like to think this could also be fired by the Marauder if need be, but with everything else he's packing, he's probably not going to use this that often. And he's also got this minor cutting tool, just in case the pilot feels like disabling enemy mech suits up close and personal. Oof, messy. Another feature of the Marauder I want to point out are these small printed tiles on the upper thighs of the right leg. You'll notice they are different, and that is because these are designated areas where pilots are allowed to put some kind of customizing mark on their mech to kind of individualize it and mark it as their own. It also helps for telling which one is theirs in a crowd of identical mech suits. This could be anything from just a little piece of artwork to writing their name to who knows what. You can see here they've both gone with some kind of, maybe that's like their personal logo or something, just whatever they thought was cool. It's really the only bit of individualization those pilots are allowed to do, so they always take advantage of it. And since we've talked about the pilots plenty, we'll show how the cockpit actually opens so you can see them in there. Very, very simple, kind of like a big mouth. And there they are. I like to think these pilots are somewhat above a normal ground troop. They're also trained in survival and recon and all kinds of extra missions. They're very capable soldiers. If these are sounding a lot like the pilots from Titanfall 2, yeah, that works. Just think of those guys. Now, I did mention that these are basically the stock standard forms of these mechs, and there is the opportunity to upgrade and enhance them with extra weapons, so let's get a look at what that looks like right now. Alright, and now we've got some beefed up Marauders. Let's take a look at their toys. As you can see, this one is armed with a heavy chain gun with a big drum full of ammo down there. This is basically this on steroids, just a massive, massive heavy machine gun that can just throw all kinds of nastiness out there very, very quickly. So, unfriendly. As I was saying earlier, these are also designed to allow the mech to fire as many of its weapons at once as possible. So right now, with just this one arm, it is able to fire its lighter machine gun, missiles from its missile pod, as well as its heavier machine gun. And if this missile pod is angled properly, it is actually also able to fire over the big shield. That being said, let's talk about the big shield. This mech has a big shield. If you want to shoot this mech, it will be hard because of the big shield. This Marauder also has a big shield. It also has a big rocket launcher, in addition to the 2 rocket launchers it already had. This is kind of reserved for the pilots, or not reserved for, but often used by the pilots who maybe have a bit of a screw loose. These guys are kind of weird. They just blow up quite a bit of stuff, and they're probably not super well in the head, but Future Mechanics doesn't care about that. They care about results, so people like these are often tolerated, if not encouraged. Another thing you're able to do with the big shields, and many Marauders often do, is actually put them on the ground sideways for ground troops to use as barricades or some kind of shelter or cover. Just makes for a good rallying point if one is needed. Also threw in a nice little auto turret there. I'm pretty proud of that small build, so I hope you guys like it. And real quick before we go, here's a closer look at the Marauder pilots, or Marauder commandos as I like to call them. That one on the right kind of has a lot of personality to her. In fact, she kind of reminds me of someone.
Who said anything about salvage?
Alright guys, until next time, I want to thank you all for watching. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you really like this video, feel free to subscribe. There's a little too much to these guys to do full instructions at the end of the video, so these will actually be available in PDF form over on my PayHip page. All the weapons will be included as well in the PDF, so if you buy it and download it, you will not only learn how to make the Marauder, but all the weapons that I have showed off here as well. So if you like this build and you want to support the channel, I would really appreciate it if you drop the $2 to buy those instructions. Anyway, I've been Mindbender, and I will talk to you later.